president now, there are people who are sitting in buses from the east, the west, the north, with one agenda. They are coming to Accra today. Every day, the mess gets more complicated and gets worse. It's like a cancer that is not detected. By the time you detect it, it's a bit too late, and we keep joking. It's a daily occurrence, the daily influx of people into Accra who have come and will not go back.
Urban planner Frank Taki. With a population growth rate of 4% per annum, Accra is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa, and it's buckling under the pressure. Farouk Brahima of Slum Dwellers International.
If we were proactive in our planning and we actually took our statistics seriously and our demographics seriously, and with all the statistical information that we had, it wasn't difficult to have predicted that this was going to happen. It didn't happen overnight. Now, my point is, who stopped working? Because I expected the statistical services and the city authorities to have made all these projections to factor it in our development programs. That didn't happen.
Samayan Kusi of Cities Alliance picks up the story.
Originally, our agenda was rural development. The whole thrust of our government, because about 70% of our citizens in about 50 years ago were living in the rural areas. So most of the government programs, understandably so at the time, focused primarily on rural development. And you ask yourself why that failed. Okay, that failed because of bad governance. If you go to a village and you think by creating a borehole for them to tap water, you have helped them. That's not enough. That's not enough. They are going to reject it.
The statistics speak for themselves. In the mid-1980s, just 32% of Ghana's population lived in urban areas. By 2000, that figure had leapt to 43%. Today, it's estimated to be 50%. The drift from rural to urban has become a flood, and it's stretching the city and its infrastructure to breaking point.
I think the first challenge to me, honestly, is having not understood the merits of town planning. See, fundamentally, a city planning office or a town planning department is a judge in a very crazy situation of conflicts, how to manage land efficiently. Basically, there's going to be competition. You've got your land, and I've got my land. You can decide, and my land is probably next to yours. I want to use my land for a 5-star hotel. But you look at your circumstances and say, look, it's better because of all these guys who don't have public toilets. I want to use my piece of land for a public toilet. How are the two compatible? What we've missed out all of this in Ghana over the years is the dichotomy between land ownership and land use. I own the land, but I do not have absolute rights on what to use the land for. No, that's the bane of our problem. So you wake up this morning, the next thing you see somebody is clearing some land on way off the Kaswa Road. His intention is he has seen the chiefs, he owned the land legally, and he decides that he wants to do a primary school there. That's it. But he's forgotten that he's actually extending the infrastructure base beyond the capacity of ECG. But ECG, for lack of good governance environment, will follow once you go and pay and get the poles. So they themselves are their own enemies. Water company will also follow and try and draw the line, and on we go. And then the sprawl.
The further the city sprawls, the higher the costs of essential services, like electricity and water, and the more land we consume. Urban farming, that was once so part of the city landscape, has all but disappeared under concrete and housing developments, pushing up the price of food. The further we live from the city, the more congested our roads, the more time we spend commuting to and from work. According to Frank Taki, with proper planning, Accra's population of 3 million could fit into 1/3 of the space the city currently occupies. Accra, he says, has been totally mismanaged.
The fastest growing industries that I've noticed, one of them is security agencies. Because of the sprawl of Accra and the sense of it. Just go, they are growing numbers. That's all. But these are little signals that will tell you how insecure we feel, because we can't even manage the territory. We can't manage the territory. We can't manage the territory. Next to security agencies are pharmacy shops, avoidable health problems, malaria, the choke drains, and so on.
Waterways cross the city and play an important role in the city's well-being to collect water runoff during heavy rains and guide it safely to the sea. But such is the pressure for land that people have built houses, kiosks, even factories along their edges in total disregard of city bylaws. And in the absence of proper sanitation and waste management, people use the waterways as garbage dumps. Encroached on from every side and choked with human waste, the waterways can barely function. And when the rains come, the city floods year after year. Testimony to the lawlessness that rules Accra and to the short-sightedness of the authorities. It's about governance, says Frank Taki.
Governance to me means that I'm not going to wake up tomorrow morning and find somebody who's put a kiosk in front of my house and devalue my property overnight. To me, this is a pragma. I'm not going to find somebody who has wrongly put just one building and then it rains and all of us have our rooms flooded. This is bad governance.
It's time to go back to the drawing board, says Frank Taki.
We have an approved Accra Central Area redevelopment plan approved by Cabinet way back in 1993 with funds from the UNDP, a very expensive work that we did. You can see all the drawings are there. It's approved.
The idea at the time was to redevelop and bring some order to the haphazard chaos of central Accra.
Agbogbloshie Market, the onion, central onion market is there, the central yam market is there, the central plantain market is there, tomatoes, central, this Bugbery Point is there.
And they have no place in modern-day central Accra.
We don't have a central business district, okay? We have a central area. But a central business district is one confined area of high premium complementary activities which more or less serve as the highest end of property returns. So you have your financial center there, top class offices are there, or your shopping malls, high-ended things. What we have is a mess of. I mean, how do you have a Supreme Court sharing the boundaries with the onion market? They are incompatible. One must give way to the other. Okay, how can you have Novotel and Movenpick, and their boundaries are Temalori Station with the Kayaye and so on there? But that's how we've run the system.
The plan was simple. Move the bulk breaking markets and lorry parks, for example, to the periphery of Accra, where they logically belong. This would decongest the city and make way for appropriate high-end development and investment.
This is Jamestown, okay? This is how it looks like now, currently. See the fishermen, their boats and so on. And what we say now, it's possible to reorganize it, do a proper breakwater, and secure the boats properly, and then do a warehousing for them, do cold stores. And then we took an example on Luttrell Street. This is what you will see when you go there now. It's exactly the same now. Yeah. And then you say, this is what you can get out of it. Yeah. The whole of the beachfront. Now, look at this, for example. Okay? I mean, this is a mighty big space to have a huge recreational enclave and tourism enclave here.
This is this area.
Yeah. The Castle Frontier there.
Right.
Arts Center, Frontier, all of that, yeah. Now, and then look at what had been proposed.
This is what it should have been.
This is what it should have been.
A mix of high-end residential, business, commercial, and tourism facilities.
But go there now. Just take it, go and film it and look at it.
12 years after the plan was approved, this prime real estate remains a squalid wasteland. And while the redevelopment plan lies gathering dust on the shelf, the city becomes more anarchic than ever.
So this is a clear example. Lack of capacity to implement, the will to implement plans. You do a plan and it becomes just for glorification. The plan must be implemented, otherwise it remains a dream.
The city is littered with broken dreams.
Go to the ministries, the old ministries, around 7 p.m. People queue up to sleep on the corridors in the ministries. Are you aware? People sleep, go to all these Udona and this is the mechanic shops. Go and knock on their doors in the kiosk. See how many people live in those areas. People who sleep in cars and so on. That's a phenomenon, okay? This is a real Accra.
Homelessness is one of the most serious consequences of mismanaged urbanization. The housing deficit in Accra is said to be over 1 million units, and informal settlements and slums are mushrooming all over the city. Often built along railway lines and in waterways, and characterized by lack of sanitation and waste removal, they contribute in no small way to the city's problems. But Samayan Kusi of Cities Alliance sees it differently.
As a citizen, they have a right to live, a right to have access to land, and a right for employment. They have a right.
But there's poor people who put kiosks everywhere, who live as they please. What about my rights?
My brother, it's not about people putting up kiosks elsewhere. It's about how far have we brought them up? What education did we give them? What opportunities did we create for them? Are they even aware of the mess they are creating around themselves? And they are not. And whose responsibility is that? It's our leadership. And you ask yourself the question, how passionate are our leaders?
I share all of that. But does that mean that the poor and deprived can do what they please?
They don't understand. Their only understanding and their only thinking as the day goes by is how they can make a living. And my brother, no one wants to live in a slum area. Nobody.
The city is a mess, and somebody has to answer for it. So we've come to Town and Country Planning for some answers. Metropolitan
Town and
Director
Country Planning
Doris Tete.
exists to advise governments on the proper use of land.
How would you rate your performance?
I would say we have done fairly well. If you look at the organization of Accra in terms of fiscal organization, you will see a hierarchy of roads, a hierarchy of developments, a hierarchy of settlements, community housing, infrastructure in place. I would also be the same person to concede that we have some way ahead of us to be able to attain our middle income status.
What holds you back?
Logistic-wise, we have a major constraint in terms of base map information. Accra, for example, we do not have a comprehensive and up-to-date base map. So we do not have a clear picture of development as on ground. If you don't have a basic background information, you cannot plan.
While automated digital mapping is commonplace around the world, everything here in Accra is done manually, using the most rudimentary equipment like rulers and set squares. Then look at personnel. 10 years ago, the planning office employed 15 planning officers. Today, it has just 3.
What happened to the other 12?
You know, we are downsizing of government departments, so town planning equally is affected. The other side is the disciplines that are required to feed into the technical expertise of the planning office are also inadequate. If I'm talking about drainage, whilst I have a general planning knowledge, I must have an expert in drainage management or in waste that can give me an idea of the technicalities in that experience, that expertise to feed into a planning policy and a planning action. So these are some of the reasons that we have difficulty in the planning aspect.
And if against all these odds, they actually manage to produce a plan, implementing it is out of their hands.
If, for example, we made a provision for a road, Independence Road, that road section would have to be picked by the Department of Urban Roads and developed.
And if the department doesn't have the funding, it doesn't happen.
If you take the motorway as being a plan which was proposed in the 60s, 1963 plan proposed the motorway, and it is only in 2010 that we are able to complete the implementation of the motorway, then you can imagine the default rate. So the lack or the gap between planning and implementation creates an environment of no planning.
According to Doris Tete, enforcing the law is no less problematic.
Indiscipline is what is strife in this country, and it permeates the built environment. People build without recourse to the law. I mean, Like I said, they don't have title. Without title, you shouldn't be building.
So sanction them. Do something about it.
The law currently is weak. The sanctions of the 1945 Cap 84 is so obsolete that it is not biting enough. It's not deterrent enough. Our attempt is to prepare a new updated law that will be binding, that will be biting, and that will be enforceable.
A new draft land use bill is indeed in the pipeline and will give town and country planning far greater regulatory powers. But given the length of time it takes to get any bill through Parliament, don't expect changes anytime soon. Meanwhile, unlawful development gathers speed, and there is little town and country planning can do about it, says National Director Asiedu Puku.
Town and country planning per se does not embark on demolishment. If you attempt to do it, somebody can take you to court and you find yourself in hot waters. The assembly, the authority lies in the assembly.
And you are advisors to the assembly.
We are advisors, technical advisors to the assembly.
They don't take your advice.
In politics, so many things happen. And for me, as far as physical development is concerned, until we devoid it from politics, we will not be able to find our feet.
So that's part of the problem.
That is part of the problem, especially when you see things going on during election year. Nobody wants to talk about it.
We get directives not to touch certain things because they are not politically expedient. And it's all, not only local politics. I'm talking even about international politics. You have an international NGO, an international institution say anti-eviction, don't touch these people, don't touch any development which is in the wrong place. So a combination of these things also make development control very difficult.
There are political interference, no doubt about it. But I think if we manage to get the right people in place, that problem would be solved.
Right people in what place? Politics?
In the political realms.
I traveled to the United States some time ago, okay? And I went there with the Ghanaian mentality, okay, where you can lie, you can do any kinds of things over here and get
Oh, are you telling the Americans don't lie? They do.
Oh, they do, but I will never say they never, but the systems will get you. But the sense I'm trying to say here is that leadership is very important. Human beings are who we are. If you give us space, if you create the conditions for us to be corrupt, whether it is white, whether it is black, it doesn't really matter. We are going to be corrupt. But if you put institutions, strengthen institutions and systems in place that check us automatically, then we behave.
This is what the decentralization move begun in 1988 was all about. Devolving power from central government to local and district assemblies, who in turn are in touch with their community's needs and are accountable to their constituents.
I welcome wholeheartedly that that was going to transform and accelerate our development. And development that will be a response to the needs of the local people.
But it's not working according to plan. To serve their individual communities, assemblies need to be